Welcome to PPR Podcast number 159. My name is Paul Rudy, but the star of the podcast, star of my life, the star of everything I do, Mr. Bert Grossman, is in the right seat, and you have a very special friend and guest to introduce. I believe he's our the first three-time invitee to this podcast.
Is he?
I think so.
Oh, wow. Welcome back for the third time.
I'm excited.
Mr. Joe Heinz.
Thank you, Mr. Grossman.
It's CIF Commissioner who's talking over my intro.
Yeah. Hey, Joe.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sorry, Mr. Grossman.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
Joe, I think the reason why you're here and the reason why we pestered you for a third time is the big news as it relates to the football playoff system. Is this playoff system going to be in place of every sport, or is this just a football-only postseason playoff?
Football only for now, Paul. Yeah. The Southern section just approved it for all sports. They had done that for 3 years with football, and just again at their last meeting are going all sports. But right now our initial run here is going to be in football only.
What do you think that's going to change?
Well, hold it. Can we just set it up a little bit better?
You both are rude today.
Yeah.
I should leave.
Joe, explain what we're doing that is different than how we've done it.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you. And I apologize. Bert was talking over you there, Paul.
Yeah.
In the past, when we started this whole competitive equity, it used to be where it started, teams were put in divisions before the beginning of each year, and there was a historical element that was involved. When it first started back in 2013, it started with a 5-year historical where they'd look at your previous 5 years, and you'd be placed in a division for that season based on that 5-year historical, and then that was going to be the division you played in the playoffs. So you were set before the year started, everybody knew where you'd be playing. It changed over time. Over the years, it went from 3 years to a 3-year historical. When COVID came back, it went to just a 2-year. And so now, instead of having a historical where you're placed in a division, you know where you're at, you know we're going to be playing. If you qualify for the playoffs based on your rankings at the end of the season, we are now placing teams into the playoffs. There are no more divisions at the beginning of the season. Everyone's in a big pool. And so now there is no historical. You are going to be based on the body of work from that season. And that's where we'll take those teams and place those playoffs at the end of this regular season. We'll take the CalPreps rankings, and CalPreps is the same rankings we used last year. And we'll go straight in, take the top 4 ranked teams. They will go in our open division. Again, the next 12 will go into Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 4. Then Division 5 and 5AA are a little bit different since we started a 5AA, which is an enrollment protected division. It will not change the amount of teams we have in the playoffs. That will be the same. We'll still have an 8-player division of the playoffs as well. But again, instead of compiling any historical data and having divisions set at the beginning of the season, it will completely be done at the end of the season, and that will put all of our teams into the playoffs.
Am I in timeout still?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Ask the obvious question now.
Oh, I don't know can I ask my question?
Yeah.
Really? So in layman's terms, if you're anybody, you're Bishops, you're Hoover, you're Crawford, if you have a historical year, you could be an open theoretically, correct?
Well, it's still going to be based on whatever data CalPreps uses to rank their teams. And it goes with strength of program, strength of schedule. They like Max Preps, don't have anything that they absolutely publish to say, here's our exact formula and algorithms that we use. But they will determine based on all this very similar factors that, with the strength of your competition, who you're playing and what your record is, it will give you an overall ranking. So again, that's some of the factors they'll use, and it's hard to determine and say, hey, like you said, the examples of schools you gave, where exactly they'll end up, Bert, but it will definitely be based in, and we're a little bit different than the Southern section. We tweaked it, and the football advisory met several times with the North County Conference on their proposal. It's not exactly like the Southern section looks like, but really the thing that we are using is we are going by straight rankings. The only teams that are guaranteed automatic entry into the playoffs will be the league champs. Otherwise, everyone else will be going straight down the rankings and straight down what the final rankings look like and placing those teams based into those divisions based on what their final CalPreps rankings are.
So then does it help a team to schedule difficult?
Well, obviously you're going to still want to try to get wins, Paul. You're going to want to schedule, obviously to where you feel your team is appropriately suited, so to speak, with the talent level of that year's teams. Again, in years past, which makes it different, when you're in a division, you're locked in there based on historical. I think a lot of the questions and concerns came up. Hey, listen, we graduated all of our seniors, but we had 2 great years. So now we're up in this division, but we don't really have the same team that we had. But because we had 2 quality seasons, we're locked into this division. Kind of the same way as, teams that are growing and progressing the other direction, they're been in a lower division, but now they're advancing up is where they should be, based on, having a different talent, a different level of talent. So this is, I think the big positive that everybody liked is not only one, is it going to be based on that current year's body of work, but number 2, since we are going straight down the rankings, it is going to make for some very competitive divisional playoffs where they finish, because you're going to see that disparity of having one super high ranked team up at number 1 and someone down at number 12 that could have been 30 or 40 ranking points, again based on how that division finished out. Now you're going to see a nice body and grouping of teams together in those playoffs, which should make for some great matchups when we get to the playoffs at the end of the season.
I think it's, because we the open games last year with the playoffs and the championship was just like historically good and well matched, and I guess it kind of does that little formula for everybody now. So we shouldn't see the the first 2 round blowouts that we always see. It should be just great games every playoff.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What's the downside to this? Well, you can't even give away free puppies and candy and everyone be excited about it. Who are the people? Not who are the people. What are the people that are upset with this? What are they bitching about?
No, I think it's just some of the concerns with being in a lower division or being in a conference where you're in with lower ranked teams, and how is that going to affect you, and how might that end up affecting your overall end ranking based on the conference and the league that you're put in, because those aren't things that we control. Those are typically things that our conferences control. They put their teams into leagues, and they typically have done that based on competitive equity and what the rankings look like. So that's where a challenge is going to come in, is how the teams set up their leagues. And again, if I'm a coach, I'm trying to determine who do I want to play. What's the fine balance of, is it a higher ranked team, or is it a team that finished real high in Cal Preps last year, but at the same time knowing I've got to get wins? So I think that's all going to have to be determined as this rolls through. This is going to be year 4 for the Southern section, and when we asked them what things would you guys change, what things have you learned from this, they said absolutely nothing. Their schools, their conferences, they like it. They like how it is, and obviously like it so much in their other sports. They've decided to go to this same model in all of their other team sports. So again, we'll see how it progresses here in our section. It should definitely be an interesting time here in this first year, and see how it all shakes out.
So safe to say that if this is as successful as it was in the Southern section, that you could see this being basketball in every sport.
It could very well be, Paul. It could very well be. And like I said, we'll know more. Really even how the rest of the Southern section sports, because again, you're going from just one sport, football, now to all team sports in the Southern section, and there's no one set ranking system that's out there that they use for every single sport. So I think there's some little things that even if it ever came to the point where we were doing that, we do have different ranking systems for all of our sports, but again, is there going to be one set system that gives the same type of ranking, so it's a consistent piece and a consistent data point that's used for all sports in every single season? So those are still things to be worked out from the Southern section, but I'm very curious to see, and obviously they're very confident with that system. So it'll be interesting to see in a year here how it works for the Southern section.
Hey, I just have a question. Remember the year Tyler Buckner, his senior year at Bishop's, right?
Yeah.
And they played
El Camino. Yeah.
How did Bishop's get up to play El Camino? Well, this system wasn't in play, and they would have been in a lower division, would they not have been? Do you remember that year at all?
Oh, absolutely. What was the score, like 70 to 68 or something? I remember.
Yeah, it was a track meet. But how did Bishop's get into that division?
Just again, what our previous divisional placement criteria was, Paul. That was that historical data, and at the time it was 3 years. So they took 50% of their most current or previous season, then 30% of the season before that, and then 20% of the season before that, going back 3 years. And just Bishop's being consistently a solid program, they had worked themselves up into, I believe that was Division II at the time. It might have been Division. I think it was Division II. But yeah, just again, that historical data and where they're at, even though they're a smaller school, the success of their program put them up there. And then again, with the competitive equity, there was an enrollment factor that was considered in as part of your divisional placement. That's only for football. But even with all those factors and data points, factored in, they ended up being placed at the Division II level in that division. And again, even as a small school, we're going against a school of, El Camino is close to 2,500 kids. So, it's just, that system worked. That was the previous system. And again, your success and how well you did.
Got it.
See teams go up divisions.
You threw out one of those academia phrases that raises my eyebrows. Enrollment equity, transfer equity. What is that in people speak?
Well, the enrollment factor was something that was just put in for football and was basically to protect small schools, to ensure there was an additional factor which didn't allow or keep them or put them way up in a division where they wouldn't belong. There is no transfer equity in any of this. That doesn't factor in anything where divisional placement was put in. But again, now that we're going to these straight rankings, all those former or all those other data points and considerations that were used for seasonal divisional placement are no longer in effect. It's basically just strictly how you did at the end of that season and that body of work that's going to put you in a playoff division moving into this new format.
Hey, do you see, it's almost like epigenetics. Coaches are so ingrained with, and schools, that I'm going to schedule, if I'm Division III, I'm going to schedule 3 all year or equivalent or 1 or whatever it is. Do you think, how long do you think are playoffs going to look exactly the same? Because coaches are going to take 3 or 4 years to get out of that mindset of I'm always going to schedule this level opponent until they start scheduling higher?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bert. And, I don't know what that's going to look like. I always assume that teams or schools are going to evaluate their programs and schedule similarly, if not a little higher base competition to challenge their teams. And I think coaches have to evaluate where their program's at on a yearly basis. But ultimately, you want to win. You want to put yourself in a position to win, play competitive games. Obviously, teams that are going to have a high strength of schedule that's going to add to your overall ranking at the end of the season. But I think it's going to be a fine balance of the both, and it'll probably take some time to figure out exactly what that looks like here. A couple years to figure it. But you don't see, even when you look at the southern section over a couple years, those teams that were in there, even when they had divisional placements prior to going to this format, there's still, there's a few anomalies along the way, but they're still in a similar spot and similar division-wise as where they were prior to this coming into this new playoff format where they see it at the end of the year.
Can I ask a scheduling question? Joe, sure. When's the last time you walked on the campus of Lincoln High School and walked their football field?
I was there for their playoff game at the end of last year, and saw their field, and I've seen a couple fields across the county that I know are getting addressed. And so, yeah, there's definitely some concerns out there with the turf condition on some of our fields. I know most of our schools and districts are all on top of that. It's unfortunate, people think that schools have turf and they never need much maintenance or they never need much work. But the reality is, the shelf life on those fields is about 10 years, and that's if you're taking care of them and doing all the right things. And, as great as they look when they're brand new and in, if they're not taken care of, they get a little older and they start showing their wear and tear. So it's definitely something that, I was aware of, and I know there's some challenges going on at Lincoln, but I know the district's on top of that, trying to get that squared away here and rectify it ASAP.
Joe, that field's unplayable.
Yeah, there's unfortunately, Paul, there's several schools in this section that have turf issues that are out there that I know districts are aware of and addressing, and it's unfortunate in that situation. And like I said, I know San Diego Unified's on top of that. I know that they will take care of and get that rectified as soon as they can. But yeah, it's definitely an important situation.
But and I would argue, Joe, that not many of these schools are of the caliber of Lincoln High School. They're one of our showcase teams, and for them to play a permanent road schedule. I know this is not anything you're responsible for, but I think it casts a bad look on San Diego section football, doesn't it?
Well, Paul, you got to take into consideration too. It's not just football that plays in those fields. There's girls sports, boys. It's across. It affects an entire athletic department, and keep in mind those are classrooms too. They have PE out there and those things. So these schools that have challenges with their fields, it impacts more than just the football programs. It affects all their programs and their academic programs as well. So obviously it's of the utmost importance to take care of those issues and maintain those fields. I think a lot of times, even in previous districts I was in and with, the challenges come with maintaining those fields and making sure you have the resources to do that. Otherwise, where there's a 10 to 15 year shelf life on those, it can be even less if they're not taken care of or maintained. So it's a huge investment to get into, and even the replacement piece is a huge piece of it, but the maintenance piece is a critical part as well to keep those fields updated.
Do you know off the top of your head how long that field lasted? I mean, did it make it?
I don't. I'm not sure, Paul. Okay. I'm not sure where they had their initial field or even an updated turf put in over there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Can I go on a different subject? I was
Absolutely.
curious. I never get to ask Joe because we don't ever talk. I think the most. I mean, we do PPR. We do everything football. I think the most.
Oh, you do PPR?
I do.
I haven't seen it.
I don't. Paul gives me like 3 scripts to read, and then he clips himself.
I'm not really on the show. Please.
Yeah. So it's a football show for high school. So are you as surprised? I think the biggest surprise at this year is how girls flag football has exploded and how popular it has become. Was that a surprise to you? I mean, this quick?
I'll say a little bit of a surprise. I knew it was going to take off. Had the concerns that making sure it wasn't, impacting other girls programs, because obviously when you're in the fall and you have field hockey or you have cross country, you want to have a mix, but at the same time understanding we have to expand opportunities for females, and what a great opportunity it was. But I will tell you, just seeing how competitive it got and going to some games and then hosting our first round of championships, it has blown up. And I will tell you, this past year we had 43 teams. We are looking here, initially our plan is 68 to 70 teams for this upcoming season, and going from 2 divisions to 3 full, potentially 4 divisions of girls flag football next year. So it's taken off. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it. I know there was good coverage, and appreciate you doing that for our championships and being out there, but it is intense. They've changed the rules around a little bit, made the game a little bit longer, which is good because they were real quick games, but good positive changes I think are going to really make it even a better year too for these girl athletes out there playing this sport. It's awesome.
You're seeing the semi-pro leagues pop up, and it's not going to be long before the colleges catch on, and there's going to be scholarship opportunities. Look out. Wow.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And I'll be honest with you, Nike is coming on board and providing some uniform grants, and the NFL is, the Chargers and the Rams out here, and the Niners and everybody across the state here, they're all getting behind it as well, and offering tournaments and doing some things to provide, again, additional opportunities for those girls. So everyone's embracing it. It's huge, and it's I only see it moving bigger and faster and stronger even next year. We had some schools that had 80 to 100 girls try out for actually their teams, and just huge rosters. So I fully expect to see many of our schools having full JV and varsity rosters moving into this season.
That's just good for the sport, and it's good for schools. It's good for the girls. All right, let me ask you the tricky wicket question. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm probably taking you down an alley you don't want to go, but the transgender issue in female sports that is so prevalent, a national story. How relevant a story is it in San Diego, and what's the path forward? Say a guy wants to play flag football. How's that going to work?
Well, Paul, for us, it's pretty cut and dry. We follow our state law, and students are allowed to participate in sports in the gender that they most readily identify with, regardless of what it says on their school records or their birth certificate. So that is our stance. That is a state stance. That is CIF stance. So until something changes and we're told differently, and by the state of California, we move forward, and that's how all of our schools in the state operate that participate in sports. So again, it's pretty cut and dry for us and straightforward. So we, obviously we're adhering to that and make sure all of our schools do. And it's like I said, it is something that's affects kids across the state and affects schools across the state. But it is something that just kind of the landscape of what we live in, and we all, our schools all support it as we do as a section. So
then, technically, a biological man could play flag football under the state rules.
Depending on the gender they identify with, they could. Yep.
Are you taking notes, Tom?
No, I'm just, obviously it's for some parents, that's concerning because you could have a physically far. I mean, you all see the examples on the internet about a dominant athlete who is actually a biological man playing in a female sport, and there are injuries that result from that. I assume there's at least some blowback. I know we haven't had a lot of it here in San Diego, but it's popping up.
Yeah, we haven't seen that impact us as a section, Paul, and haven't really heard of that across the state. No, but yeah, it is possible potentially, but again, following our rules and following our guidelines and the way we operate. Again, we haven't seen that, and we want to support all student athletes here with again, whatever gender they would want to identify with, provide those opportunities for them and provide an equitable opportunity for them as well.
Let's take this down. You're making it all tense. Joe, when you're not CIF commissioner, what are some of your hobbies? Tell us what you do.
Who do you hang out with, Joe?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. It feels like I'm CIF commissioner quite most of my time and on the weekend. So yeah, just that's a great question, Grossman. Funny you asked that. No, I have a good little friend base, hang out, good family. Again, get as much time with them as I can that I lose during the week and those type of opportunities because weeks are pretty busy. And then obviously when it gets to playoff time and whatnot, we're pretty, we'll get to the beginning of April here and we'll go all the way through the second week of June. So it gets very busy. And again, just enjoy that downtime when I have it with family and friends.
Well, can I just say one thing, and I mean this in all sincerity, Joe. I thought Jerry Schneep was an excellent commissioner, and I thought you had some pretty big shoes to fill, but you have filled them and then some as far as people seem to just react to you very well. And even when you're delivering bad news, I can't think of a better person more suited for it. I hope you have the staying power to hang in there like a Roman Empire. Because I know the job takes years off your life, but it seems like you've been there a lifetime. It's only been 5 years.
Yeah, it's a great job, Paul. I have a great team, which again makes life fun coming to work here every day with the group of people I work with. I'm very lucky to be following Mr. Schneep a couple different times here and in a couple different positions. But I'll be honest with you, he's still an awesome resource for me. I'm just learning every day. There's a new adventure in every corner, and again, if you're coming to work on a daily basis and education-based athletics is your job, you're in a pretty good spot. And so I'm very happy with where I'm at and the team I have in place.
Do you miss the COVID days when you get a paycheck and not do anything?
Nah, I don't miss the COVID days. There's a lot of where that sounds like fun, Bert. There's a lot of other stuff on the other side with respect to generating revenue and paying bills when there are no sports happening. There is no revenue coming in, and you find out the hard way that the state's not just funding this operation. You pay the bills with the money you earn, and those bills don't go away when COVID happens and sports stop. So it was definitely an interesting time and stepping into that position at that time. But again, our schools did a phenomenal job, athletic directors, leadership, and our governance get us through that. So we're in a good spot right now. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, none of that looked like fun to me, Joe.
No, it was not, Mr. Rudy. It was not.
All right, let me fan the flames again.
God, you're controversial.
Well, I mean, you're not asking me tough questions.
You didn't cross your legs. Well, we're friends. I can't ask tough questions.
Yeah,
he won't invite me over to his house.
I like Joe too, but I mean, Joe, let's talk about transfers. You get mad every time I say it's the wild, wild west out there, but it looks more and more like the wild, wild west with kids going willy-nilly to whatever school they want to. Where am I wrong?
Well, the one thing, Paul, is social media definitely glorifies all the transfers. When you look at the big scope of things, we got 75,000 athletes in the San Diego section. Last year, we had 1,500 students that transferred schools. So you got about 73,500 kids that are staying at schools, they're playing, they're enjoying the education-based neighborhood high school experience. Obviously those kids, high-profile kids that go out there, stuff goes all over social media. The transfer portal that's going on in college sports, that's an obvious hindrance for us because everyone thinks the transfer portal is now in high school too, that kids just can go wherever they want without any limitations. But yeah, there are still bylaws, there are rules that we have to enforce. And the unfortunate part of my job is we are the people here at all of our different sections across the state, and the rules are all the same all across the state that have to be the gatekeepers and enforce those rules. So when things come up or things happen, we take every transfer on a case-by-case basis. But the reality is you see all this stuff happening, this kind of what this transfer portal has done to college sports. And I think it's kind of resignated down here at the high school level, thinking that it's just out of control like it is in college. And in reality, it's not. But you do see high profile kids transferring around, not just this section, everywhere else. But the reality is the numbers are pretty much the same in every single section. I think we've got about 760,000 student athletes across the state that participate in education-based athletics. And I think last year, 16,000 of those 780,000 kids were actually transfer students. So yeah, there are kids out there transferring. There's high profile kids transferring. I think one of the biggest differences of even when I coached and was an administrator at a high school and those type of things is, now it's not different to see some of these kids, just bouncing to 4 different schools in 4 different years. And it's unfortunate. And, I especially it's unfortunate where kids end up with a raw deal at the end of that, thinking that, that's the best thing for them. It's going to guarantee them a scholarship at the end of 4 years. And they figure out, wow, I just kind of lost my whole high school experience and transferred 4 different times. And here I am in a position I would have been if I would have stayed at my school, my neighborhood school, like the majority of kids do. So, it does work out for some, but even this transfer portal in college is having an impact on the number of student athletes that are coming out and the number of scholarship opportunities for kids. So it's a tough thing out there. I'm hoping that the NCAA does something different with this transfer portal, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's having a negative impact on high school kids coming out there that are working so hard at potential opportunities going to college.
So you say 1,500 transfers from our section?
1,500 last year. Yep.
Did they all go to Mount Miguel?
They go to all schools, Bert, all different sports, believe it or not. There are kids out there everywhere.
Okay.
Oh, you crack me up. Joe, you got to, because we've kept this man for almost a half
way
hour.
Too long.
All right, you got to, because I want to have one more serious question.
Go ahead, because I lost my earpiece.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Joe, best piece of advice you've ever gotten in your life, what was it?
That's a great question, Paul. And I will say, and people may laugh at me, and if you're around the South Bay, you've heard it before, but I had some old coaches that used to tell me it's all about doing the right thing. And anybody can do the right thing when your eyes are on you, but it's all about doing the right thing where no one's looking at you. And you're faced with that tough challenge of looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, are you happy with the character and person you've become? And I think it's great advice. Anything you do in all aspects of your life, whether it's your family, it's your profession, it's what you do with your friends, it's all about doing the right thing. And if you can sit back and say, hey, you know what, over a life and a career, I've done that, then, I can feel pretty good about what I've done and the contributions I've made, not only to the schools, workplace, but more importantly, as my family and friends. So, I like that. I still, to this day, I hear myself chiming that out sometimes, but it's something that's been instilled in me since I was back in my high school days, and it's something I truly believe in.
I think on that note, we called a conversation.
Wow,
right?
that was deep, Joe. I thought it was going to be something I told you one night around the fire, but
yeah. Bert said
it's the stuff you tell me, Burton's very similar to always doing the right thing. So that's what's good.
Don't put your cigarettes out in the beer can. Joe, it's a conversation. Is there any chance, if you have any of your photos from your playing day, could you email them to me? I'd like to include them over that last SOT. So if you have any pictures of your days at SDSU or whatever,
Chula High.
Or Chula High, can you share them? Can you email them to P. Rudy?
I'm not sure. I don't usually share that type of information. I try to keep that stuff. I don't like to.
Oh, come on. All right, that's your call.
I might have something. I might have something, because usually
you got a picture of Kirby you could send?
Say what?
You got a picture of Kirby you could send us for it?
Yeah, I do. Just like lots of drool and stuff all over your clothes. Yeah, I have a few pictures of them too.
All right.
That's Joe's dog.
I
was
able to put that together. Joe,
I can definitely find some for everybody.
I know I annoy the hell out of you, so I appreciate you making time for us again, and I'll see you down the road. As always, these conversations are very enlightening, and people will dial into them because they want to hear from the man. So thank you so much for your time. And PPR Podcast number 159 has now concluded. Turn off the machines.
Thanks, Mr. Heinz.
Thanks, Mr. Heinz.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Cash is next week.